And here we are again, another episode of Under Pressure, and I'm so excited to be joined by actor, author, and at such a young age, you have done a lot so far. Braeden Sorbo, thank you so much for being part of Under Pressure.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let's get the elephant out of the room first. You, of course, are the son of Kevin, aka Hercules.
It's true.
I need to know how that was growing up as someone who watched every single episode of Hercules with my mom, who's a diehard fan. How is having Hercules as your dad?
You know, dude, I wish that I had a better answer for this because it's like the most common question that I get, and I don't. The answer is it was normal.
It's just
I don't. What other point of reference do I have? I have one dad, one mom. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't have another point of reference to go off of. So having Hercules as a dad was really cool. I understand that I had a different situation than a lot of people, but to me, he's just dad. Like it doesn't get deeper than that. Unfortunately,
I love how like when I was growing up, I was like, oh, my dad could beat up your dad. In your case, your dad was freaking Hercules. Bro, it's like, well, my dad could probably beat up you.
It's true. And then by the time I hit sophomore year in high school, I passed him in height. And so then I could beat up your dad.
You are tall. Like I consider myself a taller person, 6'3" when I'm not slouching. And you're what, 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah, something like that.
You completely surpass Hercules.
It's just, it had to happen. I have to be Hercules 2.0, right? He was demigod, which makes me, I think, quarter god, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me do that math. That checks out.
It checks.
So you being an actor, you wanted to follow in your father's footsteps. What kind of advice did he give you when you first mentioned that you wanted to be an actor? Because I know sometimes people will be like, no, don't do that. Like do something different. Go to school, get an education, take a different path.
So that was his advice. It was don't.
Really?
When I was 13 years old, so I was homeschooled from second grade all the way through my high school graduation.
Is that because of travel?
Yeah, a lot of travel. My parents noticed that I wasn't necessarily super productive in schools. Like I was slacking off on the work when I could. And so when I got busted, my mom started doing book reports with me and stuff like that. And she realized, oh, this is homeschooling. That's all it is. And so she just pulled me out, threw my siblings and I in a homeschool co-op. And then it made it easier for travel, like you said, with being on sets and growing up all over the place. And so when I told my dad I wanted to be an actor, I mean, big shock. I grew up on movie sets. What do you think I'm going to want to do? You know what I mean? And so when I was about 11 or 12 years old, I said, Dad, I want to be an actor. And he goes, no, you don't. It's awful. It's an industry of rejection. It's not great. Don't do it. And by the time I was 13, I had bothered him about it so much that he finally signed me up for acting classes. And so for like 2.5, 3 years, I was doing these acting classes before I booked my first movie, which was Let There Be Light. And that I turned like 16, I think, on set while we were filming that. And to date, I've done 11 movies. And so it's been a blast.
Congratulations.
I mean, thank you. Most of my stuff has been independent. I mean, I'm also I have 2 million followers online. I do dark jokes, comedy, humor, stuff like that. And so Hollywood doesn't like that. So, I'm still auditioning, still having fun stuff like that. But in terms of the movie industry, I've been really blessed. I mean, at 23 years old, I've done, like I said, 11 films. It's been awesome.
I mean, for you to get your first gig at 16.
Yeah.
I mean, that is impressive.
Well, thank you.
And I know you're a very sarcastic person, and I love sarcasm. So, fire away anytime you want to be sarcastic on the show. So what made you go down that route and kind of want to do your own thing, though, when it came to not wanting to necessarily, because you said Hollywood's kind of not about that.
Yeah. It's a little bit less in terms of freedom of expression. And I believe in, the ability to say and do what we want. Obviously, people are going to have consequences to their actions and their words, but I still believe that they should be allowed to say it and then receive the consequences. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be a preemptive strike on someone's speech. But when I started, it was because I kind of wanted to prove that I could do it by myself without any help. Okay. Because I grew up in that world. And so obviously, there was always remarks, and especially now, nepotism and all this stuff. So when I
was going to mention that.
Yeah, I started my social media. I just put my first name, didn't put my last name, nothing, tried. And I remember I hit like 100,000 followers. I was like, oh my gosh, this actually could do something. And by the time I had about 500,000 is when I put my last name on it. Cause I said, okay, it's time to actually brand. But I did that to prove that it wasn't luck, right? To do that, because I could get all of these accusations. I was doing a live stream with a friend last week and someone was like, oh, you're only this because of that. I said, really? So because of my dad, I wrote 2 books on my own. Because of my dad, I gained 2 million followers on social media. Because of my dad, I did all of these movies. Like I have these accomplishments. I've been doing public speaking since I was 14 years old. I've been blessed to have the life that I have, but the achievements are mine and mine alone. And that is what I'm grateful for.
Well said. And you use that as almost like a chip on your shoulder. Some people could use that as to have doors open, but you used it as, hey, listen, I don't want anybody to know what my last name is until they know that I've already made this name for myself. And that's very impressive. And you wrote 2 books at the age of 23. I know 23-year-olds who haven't even read a book.
It's true. I don't read that many books and I'm writing them.
What's your favorite book though that you read?
Oh, shoot. There are so many good ones. The one that I read most recently that I really enjoyed was called The Lamb's Supper by Scott Hahn. He's a philosopher. And so it's a breakdown of the book of Revelation, which, I mean, you know, the book of Revelation, they've made movies about it. There's plays, there's other books. And this is probably the best book that I have read about it. It's fantastic. Absolutely love it. I also love C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity, Screwtape Letters, stuff like that. He has the book, The Four Loves. I can't remember if that's the name or not, but it's about the 4 types of love, you know, brotherly, family love, the sacrificial love, like he goes through all that. It's a great book. There's another book. I'll throw in my parents' books, True Strength, True Faith. Those are great, you know. There's a whole bunch, and I've enjoyed a lot of the books I read. Granted, obviously everyone has books that they don't necessarily care for, but I'm better as an audiobook guy than I am for anything else because I drive so much. Yeah. So the sitting down and reading part gets me because ADHD, I just want to go do something. I want to be moving. But yeah, I try to read when I can.
That's very good, man. That is super good. And I can already tell you're someone who's very grounded in faith. How has that played a part in just your upbringing and where you are today?
Well, it's really interesting because when I was little, I think a lot of people have a belief that there is something out there, but not necessarily formed into there is for sure this, that, or the other thing. And I'm going to put all of my trust in it. And so I would say maybe when I was 20 years old, so 3 years ago is when I started taking it a little bit, deeper, more serious. And it's been a blessing. I mean, I don't know if the people listening or watching are going to be religious at all, but in Romans 1, Paul writes that the law is written on the hearts of mankind. That's why we have an innate desire to do good, right? We have this moral compass built into us. Everyone knows you shouldn't just go around murdering people, right? That's wrong. Why do we know it's wrong? Because we have it inside of us. It was placed there. And so I started asking all these questions like, okay, who placed it? How does it work? Where did it come from? And why do I have it kind of thing? And so in asking all these questions, I've just started following down this path that led me to Christianity. And so my faith has played a massive role in it because it has taught me that everything that I do is sort of irrelevant at the end of the day, right? The goal for myself as a man, and the whole reason I wrote the book, is to serve others and one day hopefully get a wife and kids and then to serve them. Because my legacy isn't going to be how much money the book makes for me, how many books I write, how many movies I do, how many followers I have on social media. My legacy will die out. There will be a time that my name is uttered for the last time, just like everyone else. And so my legacy is my bloodline and the impact that I have on those people around me more than anything else. Once again, Paul writes in Ephesians 5, 23 through 25, he says, wives, submit to your husbands. And then everyone goes, oh my gosh, that's all just oppressive. But then he says in verse 25, he says, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church, sacrificing himself for it. I mean, that is the greatest possible sacrifice. So if you're married to someone, you should be willing to lay your life down for them as the husband. And so that is the end goal for, I think a lot of men, religious or not, we can all look at a guy who has a wife and kids that love him and be like, that's peak. That's the pinnacle right there. He has something to come home to. He has people that care for him. He just has that built-in, that's true support team in his corner. True wealth. Exactly.
So let's talk about the book though, Braeden, because like I said, for you to write 2 books at 23 is so impressive, and it's Embrace Masculinity. So tell me about this.
So Embrace Masculinity is a handbook for living in America today, because I noticed when I was growing up that all of the natural inclinations that I had, which were the idea that I could take charge in a room, I could help people, I could do things. Those were all wrong. Those were controlling, oppressive, manipulative, domineering, all of these things. And what I noticed was I saw men who suppressed their natural instincts to do good. And what happens is, everyone says, don't bottle up your feelings because it comes out in a bad way. Yeah. The exact same thing is true when it comes to bottling up your instincts. When you have a natural inclination to do good and the world tells you it's bad, so you suppress it, it ends up coming out in a negative, bad way. It's why you have so many men who take advantage of women, right? You have these guys who are, even if just subscribing to OnlyFans, for example, 1 in 10 women are on OnlyFans right now in my generation alone. That's crazy.
1 in 10?
10%. And then 45% of men 18 to 25 years old have never approached a woman in real life. How do you think that's going to play out for society in the long term? Guys are not approaching girls because girls are online blasting guys for being creepy at the gym. You know, where else are they going to meet a guy? They go out to a bar, the girl doesn't want to talk to them, they go here. So they think, okay, I'm just not going to try ever. And so they don't, but they need that engagement. They need that interaction. So they go online. And all that does is it psychologically messes up the brain so that they are then destroyed when it comes to societal communication. They don't know how to have a back and forth with someone. There's a quote from, I put it right on each chapter has a quote designed for it. And so the chapter about the sex talk, which deals with porn and dating and all of these things, there's a quote that says, I've looked at so much porn that every woman I see looks vaguely familiar. And that's true, right? When you consume, I mean, even just from a scientific standpoint, this isn't even me just trying to preach from a religious standpoint, but from a scientific standpoint, the effects on the brain are akin to worse than hardcore drugs because it adds a nootropic, like the dopamine, the serotonin, all of these endorphins, these feel-good chemicals hit your brain and you crave more and more and more. And so what used to be a natural inclination, having a sex drive, I mean, every teenage boy has a sex drive, right? What used to be that natural.
Even grown men.
Exactly. So what used to be a natural inclination has been twisted. And so what happens when these men get their natural inclinations twisted and they don't have an outlet for it is it results in negativity. And that could be taking physical advantage. It could be manipulating mentally. It could be doing these things. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of our fault for not keeping our own emotions in check. Like we can point the finger and there are plenty of guys, you know, with the red pill movement and all that stuff. They're just like, go have as much sex with as many women as possible. If your wife is the only woman you have kids with, then you're not a conqueror, you know, of all these mentalities, but there's no morality to keep them in check. And technically from a non-moral standpoint, they're right. If people don't have a system in place to look to for guidance, then they can't judge someone else's system. Because then it just becomes, well, who's better, my personal opinion or your personal opinion? That's the problem with all of the different denominations in Christianity, right? You have Baptist, Calvinist, Lutheran, Methodist, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, Anglican, and they're all going, well, mine's better than yours. And it's like, but according to what standard? According to your interpretation of what you read? And so with not even just religion, but morality in general, the same is true. We have this world now where people are judging other people based on their own moral compasses, and they don't have a set in stone, which is why we get to this idea of, well, is, you know, you look at the cases of, well, is this self-defense or not? And some people go, well, obviously it's self-defense. And other people go, well, clearly it's not, you know, and they go back and forth, and no one has a final authority to decide things. They end up just decimating themselves and alienating themselves. That's why we have the largest divide we've ever had in a country. It's because we don't have a set standard anymore.
I'm glad you brought that up as well. Just the constant divide. The unfortunate thing I think in society now is someone, if you don't share certain beliefs with them, they can have a brilliant idea, but just because you don't share a certain view as them, you're going to be like, no, your idea is stupid or it's invalid and I'm not going to listen to you. And we have to find a middle ground. The numbers you also just pointed out about 1 in 10 women on OnlyFans, like get the bag. I always said that, get the bag, but down the line, if you're struggling to find a husband, to have kids, it's because I know personally, nothing against anyone who would ever do that, but I would never date someone who
most men wouldn't.
OnlyFans.
Most men wouldn't unless all they wanted was the sex, in which case you get to the morality subject of them just wanting to take advantage for their own pleasure, right? That's their own personal selfish desire to have pleasure. And they know this person will give them that because that's what they do for a living, right? We decide our own value. So to the people listening and watching, God has an inherent value for people. And then you, because God loves you so much, get the free will to do with it as you please. So in the eyes of God, your value doesn't change. But in the eyes of man, you set your price. So if my price is $5 a month, then that's my price. I've set that myself. People will make jokes. It's like, well, I know my value, but sometimes I go on sale. We all know that when a store sells something for a discount, that's the true price. That's the true price. You can't go back from that. Now, there are instances where there are exceptions to the rule, but I would not go into it thinking that you're going to be the exception because it's dangerous. It's self-destructive. And so people need to realize that there are long-term effects. Like you said, you get the bag. And also, I wouldn't date you. That's just my personal preference.
And it's not even just that, because I feel you should have a set standard. Everyone should have their own standards. And if that's your deal breaker, that's fine. Yes. Maybe you don't want to date a construction worker. Maybe you don't want to date somebody who's a bartender. You know, I don't think it's wrong, because I see so many times people be like, oh, that's messed up. You think that way, this, that, and the other thing. It's like, why should I change my standards or what I deem valuable because you think, you know, I should be accepting of literally anything?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. We have removed God and expected morality from people. How does that work? How do you remove a set function of morals and then expect virtuous people? I mean, C.S. Lewis says we make men without chests and expect of them virtue. Right? You can't expect. I mean, when you look at it in terms of the history of the world, this is unprecedented. Right? Like with OnlyFans, porn, stuff like that, we have access to more than King Solomon did. And he had 700 concubines and 300 wives. He had 1,000 women to choose from at his will, whenever he wanted.
Must have been exhausting.
Probably. But I'm saying, like, he had that, and he doesn't even have what we have access to. Like, it's unprecedented. It's crazy. And obviously it does nothing but destroy, because Alvin Goldstein is known as the father of hardcore pornography in America today. And he is quoted as saying, we, as in the people who, you know, brought it to America, hate morality, Jesus, everything like that. We want the country divided. We want people to fight amongst each other, right? So like you said, someone could have a fantastic idea, and just because you disagree with them on one or two other issues, suddenly doesn't matter. Like, for example, I don't know when this will go up, but the Pope just died. I don't know if you saw that. Pope Francis passed away this morning.
I did not see that,
yes.
No.
So 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. after Easter in Italy at the Vatican, he died, 88 years old. I was just on X scrolling around. There are people celebrating his death who call themselves Christians. There are people going, oh, I hope he repented before he died. He really was a terrible person. I'm going, the guy dedicated his entire life. We agree with him or not. He dedicated his entire life to the church and uniting people. In terms of unity, he did a better job than most of the previous popes. I can disagree on a fundamental level with some of the things he said. And I can also acknowledge that he certainly served better than I have, right? I haven't dedicated my life. I've been looking at lust. I've been doing things that are bad, right? I have not done the same things he has. And I can sit there and go, may God rest his soul. I mean, the body's not even cold and people are celebrating.
It is just a vile, vile, vile place, social media in general. You don't have to, people don't understand, you don't have to comment. You literally don't have to go out of your way.
No, you don't.
To be a douche. And I know when it came to the Pope, he's one of the more accepting popes. And a lot of people didn't like that he was so accepting. He would kind of blur that line of what used to be, for lack of a better term, Bible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but even still, the way that the Pope works, and a lot of Christians and a lot of people don't understand the idea of papal infallibility. It's not all the time perfect, especially not perfect by what our standard of perfect is. It is a matter of doctrine and morals. So he can say and do whatever he wants, and that's his own personal opinion. Unless he comes out and goes, by the way, this is a new infallible ruling on the doctrine of the church, then it's not binding. Then it's not permanent. He, like someone mentioned,
it's guidelines. He's basically just being like, hey.
Exactly. He's offering his own personal opinions, and people can do with that as they please. I've disagreed with plenty of what he said, and I've agreed with plenty, right? He had a reformation in the church that set aside for abuse scandals within the church, sexual abuse, physical abuse from bad actors. It is the lowest it's ever been in the church. It is higher in Protestant churches and way higher in public schools, right? I can look at that and go, that was a fantastic thing that he did, right? And I feel like everyone should be able to agree stopping abusing children is a pretty good thing, And yet people, because they disagree with him on everything else, will go and say, well, I hope he repented and asked for forgiveness before he died. And I'm going, you can't even let the body get buried. Like, let it go in the ground first, before you say these things. But it goes back to the division. Everyone has their own set of morality that they adhere to. And so we get this question of, well, whose morality is right? Who gets to decide what's right or wrong? Because I have strong opinions about things, but am I right? Are you right? Or is anyone else going to be like, who gets to decide? And unless we have a set idea, kind of something to look towards, we're on our own. And obviously we can see that that's kind of failing us right now. Yeah. I mean, last election, more young men voted red and more young women voted blue than ever before. It's always been sort of that way, but this is the biggest divide that we've ever had with the genders. It's the largest. During polling, young men said the biggest issues to them were the economy, with rent. I mean, I can't go out and rent right now. Like I live at home. I pay rent to my parents. I have no desire to try to go find an apartment for $3,000 a month in Florida. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's miserable.
You're just tossing away money. There's nothing coming back to you. You're not investing towards something.
Exactly.
You're not building equity.
Yeah. I drive a 2002 Ford. You know, I'm not going and living this high luxury life or whatever. Like I have a diesel and even that's expensive to fill.
I was going to say that's killing you at the pump.
It is not anymore. Not as much at least because diesel's dropped significantly in the past like 6 months or so. It's $3.50 now, which is fantastic. I was out in California visiting a friend where I'm originally from.
Yeah.
And filling up his car with premium, which was a small Volkswagen, cost more than my entire diesel tank. It was insane.
I mean, the gas prices in California have to be absurd.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's $5 for a regular gallon, $5.50 for premium.
There.
Oh, it's stupid. I grew up out there. But you know, I'm looking at this divide and I'm going, this is bad. Like all trends put aside, like if you just look back historically at how nations fall, I mean, America's kind of at the precipice where either we're going to fall or there's going to be such a crazy shift that we're barely going to make it. And that's a little concerning. You know, I mean, I grew up, I don't know how old you are, but I grew up with the idea of the American dream. Everyone was like, oh,
I'm 38. So yeah.
Yeah. So you grow up and you're told, oh my gosh, you get to come to America and it's just this utopia and anyone can come here and be anything. You can't. No, you can't. The first chapter of the book is called The America Your Parents Knew Is Dead. The American Dream is dead. It was killed. In 1959, a college graduate on average earned a salary of $11,000 per year. If we count that, like what that would be worth today, it's $120,000. You know the average college graduate salary in 2024?
Probably 60,000?
60 to 80, maybe 80 if you're lucky. And you're not even guaranteed anymore because we've made so many worthless degrees that companies are looking towards other ways like trades. And some people, like I didn't go to college. I have job offers from companies that used to require college degrees because they would rather you have world experience instead of colleges now. So on top of the fact that everything's more expensive, I mean, my dad was the fourth of 5 kids. There were 7 people in his family, including his parents, and they survived off of a middle school teacher's salary.
So many people were able to provide for 4, 5 people in a household off of one income.
Exactly. You can't do that anymore. That American dream was destroyed.
Braeden, I'm old enough that when we were younger, we used to throw eggs and
you can't do that anymore.
That's a luxury now. Are you kidding me? People would thank you. They'd be catching the eggs outside if you did that now. So as someone who grew up in the spotlight, but now as you made a name for yourself on social media, and we talked about how vile it could be, was there ever a time when you got hate and you were like, why am I doing this? Or did that motivate you more? Because I'm sure you constantly get hate. I mean, people.
Oh, I have death threats.
You put a picture of a kitten, and you're going to get hate comments. People go out of their way.
They're like, so you hate dogs
vicious.
then?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, you dog killer. I'm like, whoa, all right, everybody, hold on. Yeah, no, I get so much hate, and it's so interesting because on TikTok I get a lot of support. And on Instagram, I get hate. And I thought it would be flipped. I don't know why. But Instagram, I receive death threats. I receive all of these messages, you know.
And you think it's because the algorithm on TikTok's more geared towards your true interest? Because
maybe, but I have
the people that your stuff is going to, they're probably aligned with your views more often than not.
Yeah, but I have friends who are in the same niche, but have the polar opposite, where Instagram is their bread and butter. That's where they get all the followers. That's where they get good engagement, like I mean, I get great engagement, but it's overwhelmingly.
Sometimes you have to thank the haters because people that hate you will listen more intently to every single word you say than your biggest fan.
Yeah. Oh, it's without a doubt. I mean, I've always made the joke. It's like, you know, I've been called every name in the book, but liar. They can't say I'm wrong. My friend used to say, Braeden, I really don't like some of the things you say, but then you have facts and stats to back it up, and it's really more annoying than it was before. You know, it's because I don't just say whatever I feel.
Facts over feelings.
The thing is, I back everything that I say up logically. Because if it's not logically sound, then what the heck am I doing? That's a waste of my time. I can look at anybody on any political cabinet, on any side, any aisle, whatever, and I can find what they're doing wrong because it's what I've been doing my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting to me how people revere certain figures as gods and they do all this crazy. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And so I'm glad that I don't have that part where people are just like revering me as like, oh my gosh, Braeden's this amazing thing. It's like, I'm just a guy trying to trying to reach people, with a good message. I mean, this is supposed to be a guide. All this does is teach guys to do good, right? From an objective standpoint. Like one of the chapters is called Art is Dead. And there's a reason for it. My sister's an artist, self-taught, amazing painter, artist, sketch artist, drawing, whatever, oil, pastels, all of it. Crazy talented. And so she's the reason for the chapter. She's my inspiration for it. Because what I've learned from her is that beauty is objective. Subjective beauty is perfectly fine, but there is an objective beauty all geared towards pointing towards something greater. So subjectively, every man should think that his wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. Objectively, we might not want to figure that out. I feel like it would end poorly for a lot of people. Yeah. But there is an objective beauty. There's someone is objectively the most beautiful woman. It's just not worth finding out in that instance. Mm-hmm. But we had an objective beauty when we used to build. Right? You look at Europe when they were building these cathedrals towards the sky. Like they consider that a house of God, so they treated it like it. Mm-hmm. And then you go to a big mega church here and you get a rock concert with a TED Talk surrounded by big screens, your wall-to-wall church. Like there's no reverence. It's just you're there to feel good. It's commercialized.
It's way too commercialized.
And it goes for everything, not just churches. It goes for government buildings. It goes for houses. We used to actually put effort into buildings, and now we just put some blocks on top of each other like it's Minecraft and we call it a day. And the effect that it's having is when we don't have an objective beauty to point to, people, it's weird. If you notice, the world, like we said, gets angrier, we get more divided, we're easier to agitate, people are less agreeable. There's an effect directly correlated between the beauty that we see in the world around us and not. I mean, the world used to be majority farmland. People had rural, living in small towns, stuff like that. But now that we're in cities, people are changed. It's like when scientists will lock up a bunch of monkeys in a very close exhibit and the monkeys turn cannibalistic, they turn crazy. Like obviously we're not eating other humans, but we're seeing the effects of being—
some people do.
It's true. We're seeing the effects of being caged together, and it's not great. Right. And so this idea of returning to that, like I said, an objective standard, returning to beauty, just being able to look and appreciate things in life seems so foreign to so many people. It's my whole goal. It's what I want people to be able to do. I
think value in hard work is no longer a focal point to most people. Everyone's looking for the easy win, or how can I get here the fastest way possible and not go through the process of earning your stripes or putting in the work. And it goes back to the same thing. People can sell pictures of themselves and make a fortune.
Yep.
How can you instill the value of hard work if that's something you can do?
It's hard because obviously social media is a highlight reel. You're only seeing the best of the best, the curated, the people who made it. You're not seeing the people who've been struggling for years and still haven't had their quote unquote lucky break, And so the world has always rewarded those who worked hard and got lucky simultaneously, because you can work hard your entire life and not get lucky and no one will know. My dad was 13 years in Hollywood before he got Hercules. He was doing commercials and modeling and like small spots on TV shows and stuff for 13 years. And then he got his big break. So hard work plus a little bit of luck, boom. You ask kids, in your generation in schools, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You get astronaut. I want to be an entertainer. I want to be, a firefighter or a policeman, a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. And now kids today, they pick famous and they have no idea what famous even means. Like they just think famous means being worldwide and having a lot of followers. I make no money off my social media. It's kind of annoying to say out loud because I've been so demonetized by the platforms.
It's therapeutic though. So keep saying
a little bit. Yeah, exactly. But no, I don't make any money off my social media. Like I post because it reaches people. I get good messages. I was thinking of quitting a little while ago when I was still doing the jokes and I was just not getting good views. I'd been hit with like a shadow ban because I made some sort of anti-China joke and TikTok really didn't like that, And so I remember I was just struggling with it. Like, what am I doing this for? Because not gaining any followers, not growing at all. What's the point? And I remember I don't ever really check my message requests. Now I don't because they're just full of, just annoying people. But
we should read some of them.
We
that
could.
Would be fun.
We could. But yeah, I remember I checked my messages and I got a message from a kid who was like 14 in Pennsylvania. And he was like, hey, by the way, you're probably not going to see this, but I deal with bullying and I struggle with depression and anxiety and stuff. And I've wanted to kill myself for a long time. But coming back to your page every day sort of keeps me going. It reminds me that there's still, something to laugh at, something to smile at. And so thank you for that. And it was that message alone that kept me going. You know, like that was such a great message. It proved that even though the people who might be seeing it aren't necessarily going to be reaching out to me all the time, there are still people who are feeling the value of what I'm doing.
I mean, that's a tremendous effect on somebody. And he doesn't even know what an effect it had on you.
Exactly.
Twofold right there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's an actual beautiful thing. I remember in radio when people used to send me letters or little kids would be like, hey, I listen to you every morning. It's so fun. It's so fun. You forget that. Yeah. Because just like you, when you're doing your videos, you forget there's an audience and people are actually listening. They're retaining what you say. You're making their day better because they have a lot of things going on. Everyone's got problems. Everyone's got issues. And if you could be that bright spot for them, it's invaluable.
Yeah, it is. And it's really nice, like you said, to get those every once in a while because it's sort of that reminder.
It's validating.
It's that reminder of, okay, there is a reason why I'm doing this. It's not just for me. It's not just for, you know, because it's other people see value in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the platform that I do. You know, and so it's like, I've always looked at it in the sense of someone's got to be willing to do it. And that means taking some hits as well. And that person may as well be me because I could take a couple hits.
Yeah. But it goes back to the hard work. You're not just going to give up just because you hit a little bump in the road. Yeah. Or there's a stop sign there. Guess what? You eventually go through a stop sign.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, stop first. So
just a cop or not, you know, just roll through maybe.
First time when I was learning how to drive, right? The only time I've blown through a stop sign, I was with my dad, right? And we were just driving, just talking. And he goes, son. I'm like, what? He's like, son. He's like, son. Go right through a stop sign. And he's like, all right, we're not driving for another couple months now. Cause he's like, I don't want to die. That was the one and only time I've ever blown through a stop sign. Like I will purposely just chill there. I was like, it's like one of those events that I was like, my dad in that moment hated me. He hated me in that moment because he's like, your mom could teach you how to drive going forward.
Oh man, I couldn't do it with my mom because my mom would she would drive by holding the thing and she would just be standing there like this. And we're like gracefully coming to a stop. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, I'm a good driver.
Moms are like that and girlfriends. My girlfriend Tyler grips, like, I'm like, what are you grabbing? I was like, it's a red light. Like, you're good. And then she'll be the one, when I tell you, Braeden, she's never, we've never come to an easy stop. It's like always jerking. And I'm like, Tyler, I was like, do you know how to brake? Like for real? She's like, what are you talking about? I'm the best driver. Yeah. And everyone thinks they're the best driver, except they're not. No. I've never heard anyone say I'm a shitty driver. I've never heard someone say that.
It's true. They don't say it. I just know to watch out for curbs if I'm with my sister in the car.
Oh, she's a curber?
That. She's learning. She's learning from me. And so she's going to avoid it eventually. Okay. But she was afraid to drive for the longest time. And so now she's like, okay, fine, I'll get a car. So she goes, all right, so can you call this dealership for me? And I was like, no, you gotta learn how to do business. You got to learn how to negotiate. That's the fun part, you know? And so I'm excited for her to.
So you're responsible for teaching her how to drive. So
my parents definitely as well. But like I'm going to the airport in a week. I'm going to have her take me. She used to drive back on her own, you know, all that stuff because she has her license. Okay. But, you know, just getting more comfortable driving because she's always been an introvert.
So what is the goal? What's the end goal for you, would you say, Braeden? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Shoot, I'll go wherever God tells me to go. I will move to that location. I've been debating running for office. I've been debating stepping more into Hollywood. You know, I've debated everything. I would love, Lord willing, for the book to reach a lot of people because this is the message that people are lacking, that they need to hear. And so if the book goes well, I would love to speak at events. I would love to travel the world and the country talking and enlightening and encouraging people. And also if the opportunity arose to run for some sort of office to do good for people, I would love local office. I mean, the biggest thing that I
could easily see you in politics.
That's dangerous.
You're very well spoken.
Thank you.
You got your stuff together. So
the biggest problem that I see is a lack of transparency in everything. Everybody is secretive. Basically, the only one who isn't is like Thomas Massey, because he's the only one who doesn't take donations from large corporations or countries or other companies, things like that. So he added, you know, tried to put in a bill that would say no one can serve in office and have dual citizenship to another country because then their allegiances are tied. Yeah. It's the same reason why priests don't get married. It's like they don't want dual citizenship to a wife and God, right? So it's like, I love that idea. Transparency. I want to know who's taking donations. I want to know who they're taking donations from. And then I want to know what they're voting on. There's a senator in Iowa. I can't remember her name. She is on the board of emissions in the state of Iowa. And she receives donations from BP and Chevron and like two other companies that are petroleum gas. I was like, well, obviously she's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we know where she's going to align.
So it's for me. I look at it and I go, I really don't care what your policy, quote unquote, is if you're taking donations, because it's not actually your policy at that point. And so if I were to run, it'd be super dangerous because everyone would hate me on every side, because I would sort of oust all of them.
That's perfect. That's what you need.
Yeah.
You're getting everyone to come together to hate you.
Well, all of those people will come together and hate me, but I feel like a lot of my generation will love it because they're finally going to get transparency. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to. It's like, we want truth. Like, I feel like a lot of people talk to my generation as if we're stupid and we don't understand.
Trust me, that's every generation.
Exactly.
When you're young, people think you're dumb because you haven't lived.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case.
No, not at all.
You're gaining experience every day.
Yep. And so I will say, don't get me wrong, tons of idiots in my generation. Just like every generation, you know? So I'm not going to say like, oh, everyone's super smart. No, a lot of them are pretty dumb. But they don't like being talked to like children. No one wants to be talked down to. Mm-hmm. And so that would, if I were to do any sort of political campaign, that would be my campaign, is that we want transparency, and I'm going to be honest with you as if you can handle it, because I'm going to say you can handle it. Although I will also say most people don't want freedom when it comes down to it. They want to be told what to think and what to do, which is so interesting because everyone fights so hard for this idea of democracy and they don't actually know what it entails. It entails responsibility. I mean, if I could, I would revamp the entire system. You know, maybe we get a monarchy in or something like that, is what I tell people. But no, I love this idea of a revamp, because people have started treating what would be considered rights as privileges and privileges as rights. And they've gotten everything flipped. And so all I want to do is enlighten and teach and encourage. You know, and that's basically it. People, if given the opportunity, it's why I tell people they can homeschool their kids. Kids are smarter than people give them credit for. You give them a checklist, you give them a goal to accomplish, and if they're good, they're going to accomplish it. The same goes for adults. You give them a checklist, you give them all the details to make their own informed decisions rather than telling them what to think. More often than not, if they're competent and good, they're going to accomplish it on their own. Right now, obviously, there are people who don't. I mean, I believe it was Rockefeller who created the government school system that we have today with the entire purpose of making wage slaves. And then after that, he started investing in the pharmaceutical industry. And so you have people going from the school, learning how to be a good slave, going into corporate offices, sitting under fluorescent lighting for 10 hours a day. And then they get sick because they're not outside. They're not healthy. They're sitting, right? Here's some pills from the pharmaceutical industry, and the cycle just is perpetual. It's a fantastic idea if you're an evil person who wants to destroy people. I personally don't care for that very much, you know? And so I am against all of it. I mean, the book talks about all the funding that everyone received, because everyone looks at me and they're like, oh, so you're Republican or you're this? I'm like, I don't like any of them, man. If I'm being honest, that's the problem with me running, is I would alienate so many of everybody that I went in the book during pandemics or anything where the pharmaceutical industry was heavily invested. CNN, MSNBC, NBC News, ABC, Fox, Newsmax, OAN, Real America's Voice, all of these massive corporations, left and right, were taking donations. And nobody knows that. No one thinks about it. Yeah. And I go, that's a problem, because that's a lack of transparency. People should know that, because if they know that, they're going to change their opinions, right? Like if I told some liberal blue-haired girl, I was like, hey, by the way, you know, CNN, Fox, and Newsmax, like all of them on every side took donations from this. She might rethink her view on some things. Just like if I tell some redneck guy down, you know, whatever, I'll be like, by the way, the guys that you're watching are also bought and paid for. They're going to start doing different research, and that will lead them to different conclusions, which are probably better conclusions rather than force-fed information.
It's about just educating yourself and going to different sources. You can't just be stuck in one way, because you're going to get one viewpoint. And what you said, they're beholden to some certain factors or factions. Mm-hmm. And it's the transparency is huge, but everyone else has an agenda. People don't realize everyone has an agenda. So you're following their agenda, regardless of if you even know what you're buying into or not buying into. Yeah. And that's why transparency is huge. And you said you'd be hated on both sides, but it comes down to, like, more people need to be like you, so then people could start thinking for themselves again. And then if you have a great view, awesome. I also would align myself with that view. If you have a terrible view, maybe not going to do it. But it's not just because I agreed with you once, I'm going to agree with you every single time.
Yeah. And it gives you the ability
to tell me to put out there.
Exactly. It gives you the ability to be like, hey, I love when you did this. But by the way, Braeden, this wasn't your best take. Then I can go back and reevaluate and I can grow and I can see, okay, maybe I was wrong or maybe you're wrong in your opinion of me, right? But it allows for discussion. It allows for dialogue because we're forming opinions rather than just being stuck in an echo chamber. I mean, that was the whole thing with the Twitter files. Remember that? Mm-hmm. They tried to delete all these files that were showing that there were government employees suppressing certain news publications and articles. And I'm going, I don't care what you believe in. That's wrong. Right? It doesn't matter what they're oppressing. It matters that they're doing it.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. So I would feel the exact same way about it, no matter what the situation was. If the government was over encroaching and suppressing people simply for pushing a certain idea, right? If the government's getting involved in it, I have a problem. That's sort of the stance that I've taken. And I think a lot of people my age can agree with it to a degree. They still have a little bit of the formatting that the schools teach them that sort of think that, oh, well, they know for sure. It's like, they don't really know. They're just getting paid, And so it's one of those things where it's going to have to be a slow, gradual change, but it's going to have to change no matter what. And have you ever heard the story of the green shirt guy? No. So there's a concert and there's a man dancing all alone by himself. He's just shirtless. He's just swinging his shirt around in the air and he's just dancing, having a grand old time. And all of a sudden this guy with a green shirt comes up and starts dancing with him. And once that second person came in and started doing it, a crowd of people immediately joined in and then he had a dance party going. So that first person, you got to be willing to be the shirtless guy before the green shirt guy comes in and tells everyone else it's okay to do it. So that's sort of the stance that I'm taking is I might just have to be a shirtless guy swinging my clothes around at a concert waiting for the green shirt hero to show up.
That would be some campaign. You're just up there shirtless, swinging around your shirt like a helicopter.
Hey, I work out,
Braeden.
I work out
for that reason.
For the exact reason.
That's good stuff. But you mentioned dialogue and transparency. That's two huge things because I feel more often than not, people could come to some common ground if they open themselves up to dialogue. People are so shut out though. Yep. They're so set in their ways. It's okay to just hear someone else's opinion. Yeah. You can be best friends with somebody that doesn't agree with every single thing. Everything I believe in doesn't necessarily mean my best friend Kenny believes in every single thing. Yeah. We have different views, but guess what? At the end of the day, we have enough common ground or we can discuss our differences that we continue to grow that friendship.
Yeah. Proverbs 6:7 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens his brother. The whole idea is that we're supposed to have discussions. If all I'm doing is surrounding myself with people who agree with me and hype me up, it's a miserable existence for me. I'm not growing at all. Same thing goes for a relationship. If I'm dating someone who isn't challenging me to grow and to be better, then what am I doing? The entire purpose of the relationship is to grow, to become more sophisticated, more thoughtful, more whatever you need more of,
And then if you're with the right person, because if you grow together and realize, wait, one of us is growing at this rate and the other one's here, then that's not going to be a successful relationship.
Like I've talked to people that are like, oh man, you make me want to be a better Christian or a better this or better that. And I was like, that's so great for you. And I don't feel the same way. And that's how I know, okay, this isn't how it works. And that's totally fine. But you should be growing with the goal of getting better and improving every single day. And so I've picked, because I just got confirmed, I picked Saint Justin Martyr as my patron saint. He is the saint of apologists. That's what I do, is I talk to people. I do apologetics. And so I've found that I have been blessed with the ability to reach people who at least want to be reached. Because not everyone wants to, like the people wishing me death threats, I'm not going to have a conversation with them. Yeah. They're not going to want to talk.
Those people are just so shallow though. Unfortunately, those people have a miserable, miserable life. If you just wish death on anybody, I don't care who you are. As you said, as we started off the show, talking about the Pope. Like, why are you that evil of a person that you just don't comment? When in doubt, don't comment. How about that? We should make that a rule.
It should be. I mean, I've seen, and this is where the apologetics comes in. I've seen people go, well, Catholics worship Mary. And then they'll go to a rally where a political figure is being painted. Obama, Trump, like whoever it is getting this painting and they're playing like the anthem or something. And everyone's like, oh my gosh. And I go, that doesn't count. So you're not okay with Mary as a picture in someone's house, but you applaud this. Like people don't realize that they could be more like, and I've reached a lot of people with that. They've gone, oh shoot, wait, actually that makes so much sense, right? And so there's been the people that are at least willing to talk who will hear you out. Like I said, the people online who are spewing hate, no reason to engage. I will troll back. I will have so much fun That is where, like, if I really just need to say some things to get them off my chest, like, whatever, I'll just let it out because it doesn't matter.
9 times out of 10, those people are shocked you even responded.
Yes.
Sometimes they just throw the stuff into the dark and then just be like, oh, well, he's probably gonna see it. No one's gonna. And then when they get a response, they're like, oh crap, then they usually shut up, right?
They do. Oh yeah, someone shared my post to a story saying like men vote super selfishly, and I go, the biggest problem or the biggest concerns for men were the border and the economy. So clearly they were caring about the grand scheme of things. And then I said some other statistics to her. She never responded. Like, it's like, you don't expect a response. You're just trying to be a dick. And I believe in, I don't believe in meeting them at their level, lowering yourself down to their level, but I believe in calling people out.
Yeah.
Right. People need to understand.
I mean, they're trying to call you out in whatever way they seem reasonable, which is not that way.
It's like Mike Tyson said, people are getting too comfortable with saying whatever they want, not getting punched in the face for it. I'm not advocating for punching people in the face. I'm just saying, call them out.
But you see how you even had to say that, because someone could take what you said and be like, well, Braeden's saying you should get punched in the face now.
Yeah.
See how easy it is.
And also, I'm okay with that, because people will come to me and that will be whatever. They'll come say, well, you said this. And I don't have shame in it, because I've realized that there's a certain thing when politicians say something, right? And then they have to walk it all back. If you truly believed it, if you meant what you said, back it up. Who cares, right? Stop being a coward and kowtailing to the mob. The second you do that is when you lose all credibility in my eyes. The second you walk something back that you truly meant rather than a misspeaking, you have lost all credibility. If I say something and it's like I word it the wrong way, and someone asks me for clarity, I can clarify and be like, oh, here's what I meant. Sorry that came across wrong.
But you're not walking back on your comment. You're just clarifying.
Exactly. But if I say the Mike Tyson quote, someone's like, so you're calling for violence? I said, no, people who are calling for violence against me deserve to get punched in the face. That's like, they're too comfortable being assholes online without the consequences of their actions. Actions have consequences. I can't walk into a crowded building and yell fire. I'll get arrested. Unless you're that one guy who is it, Jamal Bowman, who pulled the fire alarm during the congressional meeting, and now he's raising money for a campaign reelection with no charges or anything. That was crazy. But like, I can't walk into a building and yell fire. I can't walk into, like, there are consequences to what we say and do. That is how the world works, right? I can't walk up to someone and just start calling them slurs and expect them to be like, so great to meet you, Braeden. They'll probably punch me in the face.
Was a big fan of your dad. Well, Braeden, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. Like, for someone to, I'm not even going to say you're young, because we go back to the point, it's like, that's not to invalidate anything, but it's impressive what you've done so far in such a short amount of time. I know you're proud of what you do, but you should definitely be proud of what you do. Continue to do what you do. Don't change for anybody. And when you eventually run for politics one day, I'd love you to come back to Under Pressure and make that announcement here.
Dude, I would love to. Thank you.
No, absolutely. So before we go, though, how can everybody get in contact with you?
People can go to just braedensorbo.com. It's just my name right there. That's my website. It should have all my social links set up. I hope, especially by the time this comes out, it should be good.
Yeah, you'll be good.
It's got the shop set. And so everyone, if they want to get a copy of the book, I recommend it. Amazon has the book, but obviously, that is Amazon. You want to get it from me directly. So it's braedensorbo.com.
Don't give Bezos any money is what he's saying.
No, me.
So make sure you check out Under Pressure everywhere you consume podcasts. As always, it's a pleasure. Tell your friends about it. Tell your friends, tell your family. Braeden's going to get the word out there. I'm going to get the word out there, and we're going to make something happen. So thank you again, my good sir.
Thank you.
Pleasure.